So last time we played, you guys were in the Wolf's Paw Casino in Matasco. You were in search of a powerful wizard there who had the capability of either teleporting you to Matasco or perhaps pointing you in the right direction. But when you guys got there, uh, after playing a few of the casual games, you were approached by Trenton 3 Points, the bounty hunter who's reportedly had Bryn's family dagger, who turned out to be the proprietor of the casino, and invited you guys all to the High Rollers room. It was at that point that Ashbark heard the call of nature, and had to step out of the casino for an undisclosed amount of time. And the other heroes went into the casino where it was revealed that they would be playing with the luck points that Bryn was infused with. And a rousing and suspenseful game of dice erupted, where cunning strategy was used by all at the table until
with questionable numbers of rounds.
until an ultimatum was made between Bryn and Trenton, where Bryn risked it all for his family's dagger back, offering his servitude if you were to fail in his gambit.
Yeah, and making vague secret promises to Tharhun and Grage,
Right.
which will
Pretty sure that
need
never
to be
happened.
honored.
Yeah.
It's gonna get awkward when that gets triggered.
Luckily, Bryn was successful and was further imbued with some luck points from Trenton 3 Points, and so a number of luck points was distributed to everyone present. And it was at that point that you met this wizard Zoltan, the fortune teller, who was willing to teleport you to Torraein for a small fee, 500 gold pieces, which you managed to bargain up to 1,000. And we ended the session with the group meeting up with Ashbark again before being teleported directly to Torraein. However, a turn of bad luck to contrast with your good luck in the casino, there was a small mishap in the casting of teleport, and it seems that when you materialized, you not really sure where you are. It's clear that you're not in Torraein, but you materialized in a very misty patch of light wooded forest, basically, but thick mist all around you, heavily obscuring your environment. So you guys could probably determine that you're some distance away from Torraein. When teleportations fail, they usually drop you off a certain amount of distance away from your target, but where exactly you are, you're not sure just yet.
Ranger, where are we?
Did you roll a scatter die?
I can never be lost. I know exactly where we are.
Make a survival or a perception check. Bryn.
But why? Because I can never be lost.
Well, you need to tell
We
where
need to
you
see
are.
how found you are.
Sorry, survival or perception?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Whoa!
Ooh, see? I told you, I know exactly where we are.
Alright, so you can tell there is, in the distance, you can hear the sound of water. And given the various kind of smells and senses that you're taking in around you, you can tell that you are definitely in the area on the western coast of the Gaither Loch, the inland sea that surrounds Torraein. Torraein is in an island in the Gniddup. So from your senses, you know that you're basically on the eastern side of the axis of the sky. The two large mountains that were kind of in the background of the Tasco. So you're like on the other side of the mountains now.
Okay. So we're still not on the island. We still need to cross the water to get to the island.
That's right. And as you guys were told by Dorsalato before you left Seaton, this area seems to be heavily blanketed in a heavy fog.
Well, that didn't work out as intended.
Do I sense that, like, sort of the fog is gonna get more dense, the weather is gonna get worse? Well, actually, no, I just came back. I should be like, yo, that was wild.
We're all feeling a little lucky over here.
You think I hate something?
You can make a survival check or a nature check, depending on...
I actually can cast. Yeah, this is a cantrip, and one of the things that I can sense weather in the next day at my location, sort of like. It's the first time I will use it.
Okay, so when you cast Druid Craft, within your hand briefly glows golden light, and then it turns into kind of more heavy fog, and then after a few seconds, you can see that there is like a darkness that it gets darker, and there are small little flicks of lightning and little claps of thunder in your hand.
Well, I think storms are gonna hit us within a day. We should be swift in whatever we do.
Well, the weather's unpredictable in the Gniddup.
I just predicted it.
Well, touche.
Got him.
Only we had a boat.
We can walk on water. I still haven't.
Isn't this landlocked though? Sorry, let me open up the map again.
No, we're going to the island.
Wait, are you sure we're going to the island?
That's where the terrain is. I thought that's where we were heading.
Oh yeah, because I saw a vision of Torraein, didn't I? But somebody told us that it's under a castle. Well, maybe the castle's in Torraein. Anyway, it sounds like a cool place. We should go there.
So, sorry, Borbs, we're on the mountains west of Torraein, but like close to the shore?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, a boat would be ideal.
Or maybe
Does
we
it look
walk
like
it.
there's any... I see there's a town kind of in the south...
We don't
or
necessarily
dot
need.
on my map.
So did I have a long rest since the last session or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then in that case we can turn into like wind and mist and just fly there.
Well, here we go. Predicting the weather, becoming the weather. How do you predict that?
So, Bryn, make a history check really quick.
Yeah.
History check?
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that.
Okay, so you are familiar with that town that is the dot that you were looking at on that map. You don't know much about it, but you do know that it is called Locago.
Locago. I know of a little town called Locago to the south of us. We could go there and hire a boat. Or we could turn into mist. That's always an option.
We could hire
For
both.
free.
Well, it's not necessarily free. It is a. Yeah.
Does it cost gold?
No, it costs.
Then it's free. 100% free.
Fine.
Your time is worth nothing.
Ah!
I want to become Mist. Let's do that.
I hate
Sounds
becoming
awesome.
mist.
But Tharhun, think how efficiently we can travel and then slay the unbelievers.
I suppose. I'd much rather ride straight at them on my faithful steed, and
We can do that too. I can cast Water Walk on your steed and just like ride to them.
I don't know if I want to freak people out by running across the water on a horse. That,
So let's turn into mist.
Tharhun, why don't you call your orc allies and we can ride them?
Well, what? Anyway, they should be on their way, but I think we should find the location of this cult and make sure we know where to strike for when they arrive. And I don't know about riding them. Maybe they'll have some boats where I can chop some trees down and make boats.
Well, you should call the
Themselves.
orc leaders to us to coordinate.
I'll do so as soon as we know the location of this cult and we can, call in the troops.
The leader of the orcs is with you guys.
It's Tharhun.
I am the leader of the orcs.
Basically, anything you do, they'll say. So, like, you
The
could
real
ask them,
question, being the leader of the orcs, do you count as an orc?
Ooh.
Is he technically an orc now?
Well, I mean, technically, who can say?
No, he's not like.
Figuratively.
Because
Yeah,
in this
absolutely.
lore, I mean, any race
We're
can
looking
turn
at
into a
technical here.
dragonborn, right? So, if an orc turned into a dragonborn, is that the same thing as an elf turning into a dragonborn? You could call them, like, a species, like,
And then are there separate race classes of Dragonborn? The Elven Dragonborn, the Orcish
The quick
Dragonborn.
answer is no.
Well, there we go.
But maybe one day there will be. Alright, so you attack Tharhun. Roll attack.
Do your worst. Will be your last strike. Run away. Oh, no, that was somebody else. That's Doug driving.
Okay, so what'll it be, guys?
I will begrudgingly accept the mist plan, since it involves
the
less
mist is
dilly-dallying.
We're classic for dilly-dallying, though.
We already had enough dilly-dallying by going into that gambling establishment.
Tharhun, we have recovered an ancient artifact of great importance.
And we all feel more
Yeah.
like.
Not dilly-dallying. And I wave my finger at him.
Wave your finger again, Bryn, if you dare.
I wave my finger again. It's not dilly-dallying.
Regardless, we don't know what they'll be like in this other town. I say we make haste to our destination.
Becoming mist also gives us an element of surprise that a boat might not provide, a hired boat.
That's true.
Not that we necessarily need the element of surprise, but it's always good to have in our back pocket. In case
Yeah,
there's
so we're going towards a
interrogation.
cataclysm. Let's surprise this cataclysm.
Gotta surprise it somehow.
So, Mist.
Mist it is.
And
Oof.
Mist to where?
thought we were misting to Torraein.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
to another casino because I don't have any luck.
Okay. So Ashbark, you cast Windwalk, and you guys are able to assume the form of wind. Let's get everyone to roll a survival check.
Survival. There it is. Oof.
Tharhun dies.
Tharhun
Damn it.
Couldn't survive
Dies.
his mist.
So you
Goodbye,
guys
orc.
start you guys start traveling here, and it takes you quite a bit of time. The passageway and finding your direction through the mist is not easy. You take advantage of the fact that Bryn cannot be lost, and do make it through the mist within basically the 8 hours that the spell allots for. And as you get close, you come across a in the middle of Gaitherlock, there is a large mountain that kind of peaks above some of the mist as you get close to it. And nestled underneath that mountain is a sprawling city of what starts off as mostly wood hovels, gradually turns into a large sprawl of brick and cobblestone buildings surrounding an inner core of large stone spires with a central tower in the middle made of stone and twirling different kinds of metal kind of twirling around this large tower that has a stone platform at the top of it. All of this kind of hard to see all of it once. You're kind of zooming through the city and getting a sense of this. So it's a very large city, and none of you guys have been there. So whereabouts do you guys want to materialize?
Do we want to materialize outside of the gates, or do we want to just get right in and blend with the crowd? Can we survey the city to see, like, is it like heavily guarded by evil skeletons or something like that, or does it look like a totally
It's hard to get a
normal,
great look at it
bustling
because as
city?
the wind, you're in constant motion and moving, and the city itself is also blanketed in the heavy mist. But you're able to see that there is quite a bit of kind of disorganization going on in the city. It looks like the city might be in a state of emergency. Towards the outer edge of the town, you notice that much of the city is kind of waterlogged, and it looks like water is starting to kind of lap up over the coast and into the perimeter of the city a bit. But as wind, you're only able to dash and stuff, so it's kind of hard between that and the mist to get a great idea of what's going on.
Is there some sort of like central part of the city, like a
The central
like
part of the
central
city is the large
central
spire.
square? Okay. Well, without being obvious, like
Landing in the center of town
trespassers,
square.
without being obvious trespassers, can we pick some public area that's in the center of town near that tower that wouldn't be too conspicuous to just appear?
Well, you guys have to roll. Well, I guess I'll just roll perception against that, but it's in the heavy fog. It seems like probably a pretty safe bet.
Yeah, we could form on a roof or something. What shall we roll?
Nothing. No. So you guys materialize, and no one seems to immediately notice that you've just turned from wind into solid flesh. The fog is basically obscuring things further than 10 feet ahead of you. So you can see kind of what looks to be lantern light and torchlight in the distance, very faintly, but a lot of details are too obscure to get any sense out of.
Well, maybe we can see if we can get any information from whoever's running the show. Who's with me?
Here. Find the person running the show.
Let's ask somebody on the street who is running the show.
Well, we're right by this big tower. Maybe let's see who's at the door.
Hopefully a guard.
Like we're near this giant fancy tower, and we pick on some like street urchin who's running by. Who's running this town? Kid's like, not me.
I'm a street urchin.
So if you guys are kind of materializing outside the tower there, it is basically the fanciest part of town, where most of the buildings around are made out of tall stone. There are cathedrals and temples around. The tower basically comes into the base of a large cathedral type building, kind of more like a citadel kind of building, and the doors are heavily guarded. There's guards in plate mail with halberds standing outside. How do you guys approach?
Tharhun, do your thing.
What thing? Kill everyone?
No, the other thing you do.
Interact with the NPCs successfully.
I can do it.
Usually kill them, but
When we look around, the population of this city, is it like really generic? Is it not trying to be racist here, but is it like all elves? Is it all orcs? Is it a good mix of races?
Are there any dirty orcs?
So for the distance, like in your surroundings, again, within 10 feet, you can't see anything. So the people that you do see in the area are humans. The guards that at the door are human, and it is a human city. But it's a very large city, the largest in all of the Council lands. And so you could expect to find races of everything in here.
I mean, why is everything in fog? Do we know?
You're the one who can predict the weather, so
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, you tell us.
Make a nature check, Ashbark. You don't know what's causing the fog, but you're pretty sure it is magical. That it's not normal for this area to be in constant fog. So
This fog smells.
I would have laughed so hard if Bob was just waiting for one of us to ask that question. What is this fog? Make a nature check. Okay, here's what the fog is.
that's how it goes sometimes.
Well, this fog is not natural, guys. We better storm the tower.
Storm the tower. Tharhun, what was in your vision? Something about a castle of some sort?
yes, apparently the cult is located underneath the castle. We could ask someone if there's any castles around here.
Does anything in the town look familiar, or is it like a castle outside of the town, or?
So you guys
I don't know.
were told about the castle by the water cultist that was being held capture in the fire temple.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, do I recognize anything from my vision here?
Yes, you recognize the stone tower. You were on top of that in your vision, and you have a vague recollection of the kind of buildings that you see. I mean, it's hard again to see. In your dream, there was no fog, and you could see the horizon all around the city from the vantage point of the tower. You can't see the horizon anymore, so but it's close enough that you think this is the same place from your dream.
The vision had like a giant wave engulfing the city. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
Wasn't that it was engulfing
Right.
Alberog? Or am I mixing up the prophecies?
Alberog is the whole continent.
Oh, sorry. What was the city on the far west coast?
Abaddon, but no,
Abaddon.
it was Torraein. Is where we are. Is where he saw that.
Oh, but I thought it was.
No, I think I
Okay, I mixed it up.
I speculated that at the time, but it wasn't that.
I'm just looking at the map.
Yeah, it's dead center on the island. That's where we are.
Right. Okay. Forget what I said.
So you guys still approaching the guards?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's
I guess so. Hail, guards! How goes it? What's with this mist?
Have you guys seen this mist?
This mist rules.
Digging this
And
myth.
they take a long look at your party and say your business or move on. We've got no time for troublemakers.
Sounds like an orc.
We're not here to make trouble, we're here to prevent trouble. No doubt you've heard of the horrible calamities taking place across the countryside. Well, we have reason to believe the next one will happen here. And we're looking for those who might be responsible to prevent this thing. There already seems to be some strange mist enveloping the land. Does anyone know of the reason for this?
He says, well, actually, roll a persuasion check.
Ready?
Nice.
He nods and seems to kind of naturally trust you a bit, and then he says, no one's sure, but rumor going around is that sorry, I don't have the right thing open here. That Carmyle, the god of storms, is taking great anger with us, and that he's responsible for bringing these storms to the land. But I don't know. Nobody tells me anything. That's just the whispers that I hear around the taverns.
You're speaking to the chosen of the god of justice, and we're here to prevent that.
Praise him. Praise him.
What's inside of this tower that you're guarding?
He looks a little surprised that you wouldn't know, and he says, this is the Tower of Alberog, where the councilmen meet and decide the fate for all of the council lands. I'm
Are these councilmen... Sorry, go ahead.
I'm afraid I can't let just anybody in here. The councilmen are assembled now, discussing this string of calamities around the council lands.
Just anybody. Were you listening, boy?
Praise him.
This is the chosen of the god of justice. Do you not see his dragonborn face?
I look at him. It's like,
I'm gonna cast a little prestidigitation in the background to make
just
it
to
sound like thunder's crackling in the distance.
Roll persuasion again with advantage.
Do you want me to roll persuasion?
Can be yourself or Eikooc or Kelnozz, but whoever's doing
Kelnozz, you're
whoever's
good
in
at
this
that.
interaction can be the main roller.
Praise him.
So the guard does seem to be impressed, and he says, I'll go in and announce to you. What name should I give?"
Oh, what's the? Hold on, I wrote down the name. The common name of your god?
Tharhun?
Don't use
Tharhun.
it. Don't use it.
Wait.
I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
if we go in with
That's questionable.
claiming we're a god or one of
But I
us
just
is
kept
a
saying God of Justice. Just don't use the name. You'd be safer.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
So they're
okay.
asking for your name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, well,
I am Tharhun. And
chosen
friends.
the god of justice. And I'm second in command, Kelnozz.
We should name our group.
He says, "Are there any deeds that the councilman may know you by?" I'm
How
afraid.
much time you got, buddy?
Pull out our hero medals from Saltmarsh. The heroes of
Hold up the Kraken
Saltmarsh.
He
Yes.
scratches his head and he says, "I have heard tales of some adventurers out in Saltmarsh Way. Could you be the same group?" And he
Possibly.
We're E group.
So we've
Depends
more
on-
pertinently, we've already eliminated 3 of the cultists that, or 3 groups of cultists that are responsible for these calamities. We know a thing or two about this, so the councilman would be most interested to hear our story and gain our aid.
The guard nods and says, "Wait here, and I'll announce you and see if the councilman will see you." And he leaves for.
One moment, sir. I'd like you to announce us by our most famous deed, Slayer of the Chazwazzles. That is all. Be gone
He nods.
from my sight.
Okay, so he scurries off and takes a bit of time to come back, but after about 20-ish minutes, he does come back and he says that Councilman Cauldron will see you and beckons you into the fortress and starts leading you down long stone hallways with rich tapestries. Now that you're inside, the mist is at bay. It's not coming in, and you can see a bit more clearly. The walls are adorned with various kinds of metal, brass, silver, bronze, copper, and throughout is religious symbols of the Great Binding and the several different human gods that make up the binding. And he takes you to a large meeting room with a table, widescreen TV, Skype, and there you're made to wait for a bit longer. There is a plate with bread and fruit and pitchers of wine.
Hell yeah.
Damn it, Bob.
So,
I kind of whisper to the group, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to use my telepathic ability and tell each person individually. Maybe don't mention Seat. They might still not be too happy about that. We kind of took a city from them."
Oh.
Okay, so
Bad idea.
is anyone partaking of the refreshments?
I mean, we gotta partake in the
I'm
refreshments.
gonna drink it unless
Yeah,
there's
this is
something wrong with it.
be unsuitable not to.
Are they in like champagne glasses or what are we talking here?
How classy is this bread they got out for us?
Could it
They
be poison?
pardon?
Can any of you smell poison to test the drinks?
I can't, but Bims, we could have Bims drink it.
Ooh.
Ongoing sacrifice.
Well, here, I'll sip some and then I'll give some to Bims as well. There we go.
They're in brass wine goblets and pitchers, and Bims doesn't seem to be harmed as he drinks from the glass.
What does it taste like?
Mm.
In the telepathic, he tells you it tastes disgusting of sour grapes. He doesn't care for wine.
I again pull out the ever useful prestidigitation. I can make it change flavor, right?
Yep.
I make it taste like raw flesh.
The whole pitcher?
You're gonna drink that, right?
No, just for Bims. Bims's cup. I hold it for him.
All right.
Here you go, Bims.
He doesn't drink. Okay. So after made to wait for a suitable amount of time, a man walks in ornate robes. He is in his late 50s with graying brown hair, and he introduces himself as Councilman Jared Coldren. He's the protector of the Western Province. And he says, so this is the group that has been causing such a stir in my province for the last few months. And now you've come knocking on our door here, just days after I have arrived. What do I think this is not a coincidence?
We have grave news.
We hope it's not.
I'm
We come to
listening.
help.
Go on.
Tharhun, take it from here.
We have reason to believe that there's a cult operating in this area. They plan to wreak devastation here. I've seen it in visions. I'm sure that we're here. We've come here to put a stop. Has anyone seen or heard any trace of them by chance?
As you say this, he nods and he says, yes, we're well aware of the Cult of Carmyle and their operations here. They've attacked a number of cities and towns along the Gatherlock coasts and throughout the Council lands. Boyle Stormcaller has sent a message here saying that he will be arriving soon with his army.
We have information about where they may be based, and we're prepared to bring our own army to meet theirs to fight with you.
He looks very interested in this and he says, we know that they have a base of operations somewhere here in the Gatherlock. How did you come into this information?
We tickled it out of one of their representatives.
Did you say we pickled it?
Tickled it.
Tickled it. Okay. little confusion there.
He says, well,
We pickled somebody, and out came this information.
where is it
Delicious
then?
brine.
What's that?
So I said, well, where is it then?
Underneath a castle. The base of the mountain? Was that where it was? I don't know. I might be making that up.
It was in the vision.
No, it wasn't in a vision.
Oh,
From the guy we tortured. I mean, tickled.
tickled.
The Lord says, well, there are a few castles scattered throughout the islands of the Gaeliloch. This area is old. Some castles have remain in ruins, and others have been retrofitted and rebuilt. It does narrow it down, however. There are still a number of places they could be. And he says, and what makes you think that you can stand against Boyle Stormcaller and his
We have-
storms?
We have Tharhun, the chosen, the god of justice.
And do the lightning in the background effect again.
He says,
Yes, and we fought these cultists before and thwarted their plans.
I've slain many cultists. And stopped the detonation of several storm orbs across the continent. Kind of a big deal, actually.
He says, well, if only you could have stopped more. People have been flooding into Torraein. Speaking of these storms, great explosions of fire and water at the same time. Entire hillsides sliding out from underneath them. There's been much destruction. And Boyle Stormcaller promises the final destruction here if we don't deliver to him a mass of sacrifices. Seems he's content to take them either by force or if we do not give it to him, he will take them by force. He's threatened
Must resist.
He's threatened to drown the city and everyone inside of it.
You should get to higher ground. Just in case.
Well, we're in a tower.
He says, well, there is space that some of us can go, but there's no way we can save everyone in the city. And he says, any attempt to evacuate the city is futile. A great evil spirit lurks in the waters around Gaeliloch, smashing any boats that disturb the surface.
Good thing we were wind.
Can you tell us about this creature?
He shakes head and he says it defies anything that we've ever seen before. A great wall of water that is able to shift and move as if it has a mind of its own. The few sailors who've lived after seeing their boats being destroyed by this creature, some say they see a face in the waters. A great massive face made of foam and shadow. Seems impossible.
We are able to travel without breaking the surface of the water. But we would need help to identify where we need to go. I don't imagine we can check every castle.
Yeah, no.
Are there castles that they know are not the one we're looking for.
Yeah, but we have heard from the guard outside of this tower that maybe in the tavern they might know more about the cult.
Oh, the tavern.
Yeah.
Best place in every city.
The councilman says there are many rumors going around this city.
Hmm.
There have been strange priests claiming to be prophets who arrived in the city weeks ago, foretelling of boil stormcallers' deadly threat. They were able to cause quite a bit of havoc and panic amongst the people. You may learn something, but be cautious. Not everything that you hear may be true.
Hmm.
We know what he's telling us is true.
Yeah.
That's always the question.
Well, should we try to seek out this evil wave and defeat it? Is there any purpose to that? Or should we seek out the cult and defeat them at their source?
Well, the wave is threatening the city, and I'm assuming they can't get supplies from land.
That's
So it's sort of like we can just, well, it's your problem. Bye.
Maybe that's where we start then.
Is this wave in a certain spot, or does it go all around the?
Seems to appear wherever we embark a ship. We've made several attempts not only to trade but to get people off the island. It seems to make no difference whether north, south, east, or west. The wave always arrives and crushes every boat that makes the journey.
We tried
Probably.
to launch 2 boats at the same time in opposite sides of the island.
He nods and
Kind of
says,
like-
a useful way of buying time, but the gather lock is large, and before long, the the wave always arrives.
How would we do battle with such a thing?
If we have enough light, we could get on a boat, and then when he shows up, everybody takes to the air.
Or we are also going to be able to walk on water as well, so that will give us some.
That helps a lot, actually. Because we
Yeah,
can't get pulled under.
Is that concentration?
No, it's
Okay.
it's actually not. I can just like do it every hour. Well, it's a ritual, so
That's pretty good.
That's pretty great, yeah.
So if something were to try and pull you under the water, and that spell doesn't let you, then I guess you would start taking bludgeoning damage as it starts crushing you.
yeah,
If it's
probably.
pulling, you would probably stay underwater, but the moment it let go, you would like pop up to the top. Right?
Yeah, I think it would be the player's choice.
Yeah, if you target a creature submerged in a liquid, so if a wave drops on you, you're submerged. And take damage from the wave and pop to the...
Yeah, it just means you pop up.
Right.
Yeah, it just means you pop up.
60 feet per round, yeah. Okay, well, it's up to you guys.
Well, it's a safety measure. We can still be on a boat.
Great safety measure. I think we're going to take care of this wave creature and restore some semblance of normalcy to this town if we can. So you can move people and get people out of here and get supplies in here.
Yeah, a bit of relief, perhaps.
The councilman seems a bit relieved at this idea, and he says, "Excellent. I'll speak to the other councilmen of the other provinces, and perhaps they can shed more light on this. Perhaps Councilman Torraein of the Eastern Province will have more familiarity with the castles in the Gaeliloch." Good luck to you. Do you...
One more thing. Can you lend us a ship?
I was about to ask if you already had one. He says, I think I can get you a ship, perhaps. What did you have in mind?
Something you're willing to lose.
He says, well, you seem like a seaworthy folk. Are you looking for something small and sleek, or are you looking for something larger?
I would think small and sleek so we can stay nimble and quick.
But we can put more
Elven.
cannons on a larger ship.
Larger
I-
ships
yeah.
need bigger crews, though. Bigger crews mean there's more people knowing what we're doing.
The only cannons we need are Grage and Tharhun running across the top of the water.
No rooting this stupid fucking wave monster.
He says,
Give us your sexiest ship, please.
The pleasure barge.
He says, I could provide you with a sailing ship if that would suit your needs, or were you thinking something smaller than that?
I think a
A rowboat.
sloop, a small sloop, definitely needs a sail.
A keelboat would be the typical smaller thing. A keelboat would be you guys would be basically the crew.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that. Because
exactly.
then we don't have to sacrifice anyone's lives.
That's true, I guess.
Just our own.
Okay,
What's it called? A keelboat?
a keelboat.
Keelboat.
Keelboat. Okay, that's cool. I'm into it.
Did we slay the ruling council?
Not yet.
When we get back.
Okay, so he sends a guard off to the dock district, basically, and says that he'll have a keelboat commissioned for you guys.
Oh, like they're gonna build this bad boy from
Not
scratch?
committed- No, not built. Just
Okay.
one set aside for you.
Can we name it?
I mean, you can call it whatever you want.
Sure.
It'll likely have a name already.
Yeah, you can't rename a boat. That's bad luck.
Oh,
So,
very well.
what's your guys' plan from here?
Why don't we head to the tavern in the meantime while we're waiting for them to get the boat ready? Take the edge off.
Have we figured out where we're going to navigate to first? Should we try and find
Oh, that's a good
some
point.
leads in the tavern to like, hey, we should go east, we should go west, we should throw in the towel and stay in the tavern.
Abandon the campaign.
In favor of additional side questing.
Okay, so you guys are going to a tavern?
Well, we're gonna ask if there's any. Could they mark on the map what they think are the most probable locations of the castle?
Are you staying
That we heard
in
about.
the? Are you staying in the downtown core, so to speak? Or
Well, we were gonna ask the councilman. Like,
Oh.
do they have any extra information they could give us before
Well,
we
the
head out?
councilman, Cauldron, said that he would talk to the councilman of the Eastern Province for more information about
Gotcha.
the gated lock locations.
Very well.
So we're from here then.
Now we can go to the tavern, I think.
In the fancy area of
Yeah, I
town?
think- We gotta go to the fancy tavern. You're not gonna get quality information. Well, maybe you would get
Oh, okay.
more information at the seedy tavern.
We can just go like tavern hopping all night.
Well, we could just pretend that we're a boat carrying supplies, and won't the monster come for us?
But the tavern is
Yeah,
like,
definitely will. We were just gonna go to the tavern for more information about the cultists, right?
yep.
We could try and. What if we tried to find a cultist and tickle him a bit to gain extra info?
Well, in that case, to the seediest tavern in town.
Oh man, I'm really in need of some spiritual guidance right about now. I sure hope someone tells me about their awesome religion that I totally don't think is stupid. Anyone? Anyone around here?
Yeah, we could play that up. We could set up a whole like routine. Oh, I'm at wit's end. I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really receptive to anyone's ideology being pushed upon me in this state. And I've been drinking. I believe almost anything. Yeah, let's go to the tavern in the like shitty part of town. Where I assume there's like pirates and stuff.
Well, no outright pirates. But you guys go to the slummy part of the city on the perimeter, where the buildings are less brick, the streets are less cobblestone, and more muddy road and wooden buildings, kind of more sloppily put together. And there is a
Can
tavern.
I put on our disguise before I go in? Maybe I'll dress up like one of... Who would be the most relevant cultist to dress up like? Like the fire cult? Because we killed them last?
Yeah, the word might not have spread to the fire cult.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't have my spell anymore.
I can just disguise myself as one. Make myself.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna disguise myself as a fire cultist. I'll go in first. And I'll make a bit of a scene and we'll see if anyone comes over and talks to me.
All right. You enter into the tavern, and it's a pretty rough place. Pretty dim, smoky, with people drinking out of dirty tankards and playing different kind of card games aggressively. What kind of scene do you make?
I'm gonna say, you know what else is rough? Our cult's almost getting wiped out by a bunch of adventurers. I need some help, some strong, able bodies who are loyal to the cause. And I sit down at an unoccupied table.
A number of people turn and give you dirty looks, and two very large burly people stand up and say, you say you were from a cult?
Yes, and I whisper,
The same cult that's been threatening to kill everyone in this city?
no, definitely not.
The guy takes his beer and pours it on your head. Says, "We don't like no stinking cult members here. You better get going pretty fast if you want to keep them teeth."
Grage licks some of the beer off of Kelnozz's side of the head.
Oh, I see. There's not many sympathetic to my cause in here, is there?
He said, "Why don't you ask that to the last crazy guy who came in here, started talking about cults and prophets and waves."
Oh. Who might that be?
He says it don't matter because he ain't breathing anymore.
Got him.
Does anyone have
You
like?
see a number of other
tele-
people are turning and looking not too happily.
Do I feel like my life is in danger?
Well, these guys don't look like.
Are they gonna like take me in the back and like
These-
kill me in the alleyway?
You face such great odds that it's really kind of hard to say whether you would
Fair.
be truly.
We
scared.
have
You're
killed massive
significantly outnumbered. You foresee a hassle at very least.
These guys are gonna jam me up. That's gonna get jammed. So I'll say, like, where's the body of this man? Was he slain by your hands?
The guy turns to the crowd and says, "This cult member thinks he can come here and start asking questions." And more people start gathering by.
Okay, I'm going to put
You can hear
down.
one of them say, "Oh, he's here to drown us."
I'm gonna put down money on the table, which I think is the cost of one of the guy's beer on the table. And I'll say, here, drink is on me. I will show myself out. And I sheepishly leave the tavern, as to not start a huge scene. Which was my entire plan in the first place. Backfired pretty spectacularly.
They don't go and take your money, but as you leave, they let you leave.
I assume I'm being booed and hissed and rotten
Yeah,
fruit is
and
being thrown.
They say, "Tell your friends no cultists are welcome here."
Okay, I leave the bar, and I tell everyone what just happened. I'm covered in beer, and I say, "Not sure if we'll find any secret cultists in here, but perhaps you could try a different strategy. Mine was a little bit on the nose."
Well, if they're secret, maybe they're not walking in just blathering about the cult that they just came from and how great it is and how everyone should join and the power of their cult gods. I mean,
Well, I thought it-
I,
someone-
I was just peeking through the misty window here, and it doesn't look like that conversation went well.
It really did not go well. Well, I'm open to other suggestions.
Do you think they would provide more information to someone who, like, to our normal group, who's very much against the cult and want to find them and squash them, like the cockroaches they are?
Yeah, actually.
Can't be a cultist. You might as well be yourself.
I will take off my disguise. And should I come back in with you guys?
Well, they don't know it was you.
Well,
Yeah.
make sure you like at least clean
I'll
the beer
dry
off
myself
yourself.
Are you guys all going into the tavern this time?
Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
should.
yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
in.
All right, you go in and you can see there's a group of agitated, slightly drunk ruffians, and you can hear one of them say, "Hey, did you see a cultist outside? We've got half a mind to go chase after him."
He's not gonna get far. We kicked him in the knees as he was leaving this place. Crash!
They seem a little happy about this. So, harumph. And pass you a tankard, a dirty tankard of ale.
Oh, I love those dirty tankards. I take a doily napkin and wipe the rim of the of the tankard.
Where can we find more of those cultists?
Yeah.
We like to break their knees as well.
We can't let any cultists wander unfettered.
Yeah,
We should.
That last one that we saw, I slapped him across his beautiful face. And
He was hideous,
running.
beautiful face. He was absolutely
I
the
mean,
ugliest cultist I've ever seen, and I've
least,
seen a few.
At least
He
an 8 out of 10.
smelled bad. It was real awful.
I mean, we don't have to resort to personal attacks. Clearly, he was a cultist whose ideology was terrible.
Most of the tavern disperses and goes back to their business, but kind of the main rabble rouser nods and says, "He certainly looked better than some of the other cultists we've had in this area. Many of the others have been covered in barnacles, and their skin has been clammy and shriveled by water."
Ah, barnacles, you say? Would you know where they had come from? Obviously the water, but more specifically, did they give you any tales of where they had come from?
He says, "Well, I ain't no marine biologist, and I don't know barnacle from this or that." But he says,
I watched that episode like 2 nights ago. The marine biologist one.
he says that then some of the folk have been speaking about before their villages and towns were overtaken by the storms, that the cultists would come in and ask and try to recruit, try to get willing soldiers for their army and serve Carmyle.
Carmyle McSweeney.
He says,
Have you seen anybody that went with them and ever returned? Or is it a one-way ticket? Straight to the deep.
He says, no one that's ever accepted has ever come back. But, there are some their family members have gone over. It's possible they might have more information.
Ah. We're looking for these cultists, and we'd like to put a stop to them. Do you think you could provide us some information on family members? Perhaps we could see if we could bring some of their family members back with us. Show them the true path of non-cultist agendas.
Yeah.
The guy points out a person who's sitting off on his own in the corner of the bar. He has a very faraway look on his face, and he has several empty tankards of ale in front of him on the table. And he says, "That fellow there, he claims to say his brother joined the cult. most nights we don't get much information out of him. He just sits quiet there and drinks. See, his village was hit by one of the storms. He's one of the few people who made it out. You're welcome to ask him if you want, but don't go too hard on him.
Perhaps we could grab an extra round of tankards, and one for you, of course.
He says, I won't say no to a round of ale. If you're buying.
Yeah. Who would? And I pay for a round of ales for my crew and this rabble-rouser. And as well, grab one for the dark figure in the corner.
Okay, so just mark off 3 gold pieces.
Leave a nice tip.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna take 5 off. How about that? 2 gold as a tip on a 3 gold
these
bill.
COVID times. Good to tip.
Okay. Do you approach this survivor here?
Yeah, we approach the survivor. Excuse me. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me. It looks like you could use a refreshed drink there. We've brought you a tankard of ale.
Make
And I
make a
offer
persuasion
it.
check.
A persuasion check.
You put the tankard of ale in front of him, and his hand curls around the tankard, but he doesn't say anything. His eyes don't phase. He doesn't blink.
Doesn't blink.
He just
You're gonna get eye problems, not
staring
blink.
off into the distance. The haunted look on his face.
This
We
man has
didn't
seen
get
some
the
shit.
we didn't get his brother's name, right? From the last guy who just said his brother. Okay. I see you enjoy a couple of drinks, as we do too. Do you mind if we sit with you for a moment?
Group of 5 people in armor.
we'll jam into the booth side by side while he sits on the other side.
His eyes shift and meets yours. He makes no response, but doesn't resist as you guys sit down and join him.
Alright. We
Tell us, friend.
we understand you've lost a loved one to the storms and this cult business that is a plague on this land. We seek to find justice and bring back any survivors who are willing to give up their nefarious cultish ways and rejoin society.
The man seems to struggle with emotions for a second, and he says, very quietly, he says, there is no justice in this world. There is only suffering.
I pull out a pamphlet and say, has anyone talked to you about Maraganor? While I would agree with you, we seek to find ways to get rid of the injustice in the world and at least make it a habitable place. Specifically, we're looking for a cult nearby. We've had some success in finding and eliminating other cults in separate parts of Alberog. We seek to do the same here and find as many loved ones as we can who who are willing to give up these terrible cultish ways and come back to their families.
Here.
Make another
Here, here!
Make another persuasion check.
Oh, God.
He's shaking his head and he says, you may be able to do great things, but how can you take on the sea itself? How can you fight as the air itself explodes with fire and the ground beneath you cracks open and swallows everyone you know? It's useless. You should give up now.
Seems pretty negative attitude here. It appears I have not been very persuasive in my in my discussion. Sorry, I'm just quickly doing a browse of my inventory here. I start rooting through my bag looking for something. Perhaps you've heard that the fire cult is no more. That the earth cult has been brought to its knees, and the air cult is no longer recruiting. These are things that we had a hand in, and we seek to do the same with this local water cult. Put an end to this mysterious mist and to their horrible ways.
He says, I've heard nothing of fire cults, earth cults, or air cults. But the
You
cult
just
of...
mentioned all three of them.
I was talking about the storm.
Ah, the storm.
Yeah, the
Well,
storms.
yes.
He says, but the cult of Carmyle, those watery bastards, and their damn tire of change. They've been a plague in this region. And he starts sniffling and says, they took my brother Darfor from us. I wonder if he's still alive. He drinks deep from the ale you gave him.
It is a possibility, and we could try and find him for you if we knew where to look. These cults, while they abuse their cultists and put them through terrible turmoil, they tend not to just kill them recklessly, as they need them to perform their dark rituals.
Would you help us scry for him?
He seems confused at the word.
We can find him using magic and see him where he is right now. We would allow you to see your brother as where he is right now, if you help.
He says,
Warning that it could be a traumatic experience.
This might not go well.
make a... Actually, no, he just accepts that. He says, what can I do to help?
You have something of his? Something he would have possessed that we can use? It will help us locate him magically.
He seems to think for a moment and reaches into his clothes and pulls out a piece of cloth that has stitching on it in the shape of a flower, and he says, this is the only thing I have left of my brother. He gave this to me years ago.
What?
Just a scrap of cloth? Like an old Kleenex he gave him?
Hey, if it's got some DNA on it, we're
He
good.
says,
DNA?
it's like, it's art. It's
He handed me
it's like
this
a-
old crusty sock when he left.
It's like a.
Not sure what it was used
It's like a
for.
cross stitch. It's depicts
okay.
a flower, so it's quite nice, but old. This is very precious to me. Would this help?
Yes, I think that'll do just fine. I don't actually have our Orb of Scrying. One of
I've
the
got it
others.
right here.
There we go. There.
Is this something that we should do? Oh, inspiration for Scott.
Oh my god.
Orb at the ready.
Oh.
Ah!
How does he do it?
Is this something that we should do in the middle of a tavern, though, or is this something we should?
I'll just
Fine.
I'm kind of like this, so not the whole tavern can see my mystical.
I don't
orb.
know. It's got mystical colors coming off of it. There's lights.
Yeah, you know what? Screw those guys. We can just murder them all if they don't like it.
They're too drunk to notice.
Someone else do some hypnotic pattern or like prestidigitation with like lights on the other side of the room at the same time. Like turn this place into a dance club for a little while.
I can do that.
Okay, so you guys are actually doing the scry right here in the tavern?
I can play a song. I'll distract the rest of the bar if we're actually worried about it.
We'll go ahead and make a performance check if you're gonna do that.
Allow me to regale you of a song.
Oh, that's a solid
playing some,
performance.
Top 20 songs in this region. All the classics.
And all perfectly.
Well, absolutely, you have the tavern's rapt attention as you sing your songs, perhaps of the deeds of your group, may I suggest, but it's up to you.
Absolutely. I'm emphasis on Kelnozz's contributions, but yeah. I'll sing the glory of the group.
Okay, so I need whoever is casting Scry with the globe to just click it so that I can see the rules, please.
Actually. Oh.
Just the rule.
Has the rules. Yeah, that works.
Okay, 'cause this modifier, does he have something that belongs to them? Alright, so let's see, modifier is +5 because you've only heard of the guy.
We've got somebody with
I
us
know.
who's like,
Well, he's not casting the spell.
I guess.
But you have
Can
the
we like
garment,
channel?
you have the possession, so it's a -4.
Hold his hand.
Yeah, why don't we like stand around holding each other's hands? Won't that amplify the power? I've seen scary movies.
Oh, but you clearly haven't read this long paragraph.
No, I definitely haven't.
Yeah, formatting is messed up.
Okay,
Have you
so
figured out
Tharhun,
modifier?
you pull out. Yeah, but he rolled a 12, so it doesn't matter. So Tharhun, you cast scrying on your globe, which starts to swirl with quicksilver, very, very much resembling the quicksilver mist that you saw inside the casino. And after a moment, it clarifies, and you can see a man a bit younger than the person that you're sitting with. The familiar resemblance is pretty striking, except this guy seems somehow more malnourished. He has barnacles sticking to his skin, and the area around him is quite misty, so it's hard to get a sense of his surroundings. But you do see this cultist.
Are there any trees behind him by any chance?
Is Just a quick question about how this spell works. Is it like, so Tharhun's casting the spell, and like all of us sitting around can see what's going on, like in the scrying orb,
Yep.
or Tharhun's describing it to us, or
No, everyone can see.
okay.
Well, your brother's alive and well, at least we can see. Well, alive anyway. I'm not sure how well he looks, but
He says,
do you recognize that?
I recognize my brother. He says, you talked about going to an island, a base where they would anoint him and initiate him into the cult.
Did you say where this island was?
He says, my brother was no sailor. He didn't know where exactly they were going. But he did mention a name, Koras. I admit I don't know. Perhaps this was the island he was going to.
God, scribbling it down on this little tiny scrap of paper.
Random
Definitely
paper
gonna
and pen.
lose that random paper you found on your desk.
I'll write it somewhere later. Else later. Love a redundancy. Scrap of paper.
The world's tiniest notebook instead. See, Scott, having your camera pointed down, we can see what you're doing for the first time. It's
This is not the world's tiniest thing. It's
You're
pretty
gonna
standard.
put your pants back on, too.
Alright, so what do you guys do from here?
I'd
How do
say
you
we
respond to
should.
that information?
Well, why don't we try to find a sailor who might know the area a bit better and might have heard of this place, Karas. That seems like the...
We could ask around at the bar while we're here.
Yeah, I feel like we're in
that's
a
true.
bar full of pirates. This would be the right place to ask. These are the salty dogs.
This is our demographic. These people should know.
Alright, whoever wants to do the main asking around should do either a persuasion check or a investigation check.
Who's doing it?
I'm all tuckered out from so much awesome scrying, so...
Yeah,
One of you guys should
I'll
probably
ask
do it.
around. I'll try and persuade some of the salty dogs to tell us where. What was it called again? I didn't have a scrap. of
Karas.
paper. Karas. Why don't I go back to the rabble rouser? He looks
Yeah,
like
he might know people.
Yeah. Seems to be directing us in the right
Go ahead,
fashion.
Say it.
go ahead and roll though.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Persuasion. Oh, man. Just struggling here. Like 11, 9, 13. Like, where's the 27s here?
So it takes you some time to going through a number of people before someone who is knowledgeable of the area. Most of the people in this part of town are poor rather than sailors. But there are people where there's an overlap, and one person does mention that Karas is a island in the middle of the Gator Lock. It is, he says it
Also, hold on.
somewhat
While
resembles a boot.
Just
Oh.
for people who haven't been to Borbs' house recently, when you see him look up like that, he has a huge poster of Albarog on the wall. Above
No
his
way.
computer. Yeah. Like a
Oh
serious.
man.
Oh, that's so cool.
And as I name cities, I stand up and write on the wall. in Latin.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I got it from Staples.
From Staples.
Yeah, you just
They just had a map of Albarog?
well, their photo prints thing.
It's in the
right?
cartography section.
Oh,
can-
photo prints. Okay.
right?
That's what
So-
I was like.
It's a 3x4 foot banner.
Aisle 12, you know.
Yeah. All right, so if you guys open up the Albarog map, oh, it's pretty small.
I see a boot.
You can make it big though.
You can make it pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, just by clicking the.
So the sailor is able to help you guys kind of point out Karas. It's kind of in the middle of the top. Kind of
The
like,
one that, like the one at the very top.
no, it's like an inch above the tip of the mountain.
Is it a small island? Does it look like a high-heeled shoe,
Yes.
or is it south of that one? It's the one that looks like a high-heeled shoe.
Yeah, I'm getting a little graphic ready for you guys that I should be able to share.
It's too bad on the like handout that we can't mark stuff on our map.
I could make a
I'm sure there's
page.
some other way,
I
but-
could make a page with just the map, really, but for now, this will have to do. Okay, so I put it in
Yeah.
the Discord thing.
High-heeled shoe one.
He says, that's Karas. And says, nothing there as far as I know.
No, what do you mean nothing there?
He
I
says,
thought
he says,
you were, oh, as far as you know.
he says, well, the fishing water around there is pretty good. Lots of these islands, though, are abandoned, have nothing but grass and trees on them. Some have settlements and villages on them, but as far as I know, nothing in grass.
That's more suspicious.
No castles
how-
though.
Any old castles?
The sailor is going to make a check. He says, come to think of it, there might be an old castle on Karas, but could be mistaken.
How long is the? How long is this sail? How long is the journey to Karas?
He says, it would be
By boat, of course.
a couple days, normally. But with the water,
And these heavy mists and
there's heavy
somewhat
mists and
unpredictable storms.
angry seas. You'd be lucky to make it there at all. But could be double the normal amounts. Could be more.
Has anyone here seen the wave?
Make another persuasion or investigation check.
wave.
In the opposite corner, there's another guy with a glassy look, with a whole bunch of beer. No, yeah, there is a person who says, who claims to have seen the wave. He seems like he's had quite a few to drink already. I've seen the wave.
What did it look like?
It had a big, mean face in it. And I was swimming away. But I looked back and the sea was flat all of a sudden. Woo! Smashed down on what was left of the boat. I was lucky to be alive.
Did it make a sound?
He says, well, all that water was pretty noisy.
Was there any warning before it attacked?
He says, well, we were in the middle of a storm. It was hard to see. The waves were already getting a bit choppy. But, as I said, then things got very calm. And that seemed to me like a very strange thing. The water just stilled for a moment before seeming to take shape and crash down on us. Flung our boat around like a toy.
Very dramatic entrance.
Was there any sound or anything that was different from a normal wave within a storm? A howling or a screeching or...
I swear
Some
it
other
had a
identifiable...
frowny face in it. The sea had eyes. And all that foam, it was moving like a big mouthful of teeth. And I don't care how crazy you think I am. It's true. You looked at me.
I buy him an ale.
Hey!
Do a lot.
You're pretty nice for a tall guy. So you gotta be careful around tall guys. Most of the time they're murderers. This ale is probably venomous.
It's toxic.
I had the venomous poisonous argument with my parents the other day. And I was like, this has been hashed out. Like, we ran this to ground. This is the difference. And eventually my mom was
Now,
like,
just for the record,
okay, fine.
it's not much of an argument. Because
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
argue the definition of the word. What I do argue, though, is in the context of the game, where you have poisonous snake as the answer, right? Right? And then the option is poison. So even though the snake is technically venomous, you have to give the clue for poison. And so that's where I argue.
You're right.
Function of the game. The word within the context of the game, the two words should be treated synonymously. But in real life they're not. And I'll die by that.
Die on that hill, eh?
Yeah.
Oh god. Just one of the broken parts of the game. That all.
Dull.
No.
You gotta play the meta.
You gotta play the meta.
Broken part of the game.
yeah, there's no game that you can't that you avoid playing the meta. The meta's got to be played because that's what it is.
It's like the anti-Kevin meta, though. I don't like that one.
Well, we don't have any control over how tall you got. You're over here growing. The rest of us are just staying the same.
Just feeds into the Kevin discrimination.
That's right.
We will rise up.
Bunch of Germans.
Okay, so what now for you guys?
I think we got all the information that we need from this particular tavern.
Yeah.
There's always the hoity-toity one up the street. Getting a bar fight or an argument with some nambies in their frilly gowns.
Real question is, are we just going to make out for this island, potentially facing a wave monster
Most
with no
likely.
actual plan?
Yeah, like what do we do against the ocean?
I think Radosh had it right. We do like water walking. I have fly.
But the problem is the mist thing, or the misty is that what you were talking about with the water walking, or is that separate?
Isn't water walking a separate spell?
Because it's a couple days, right?
No, we're not going to walk all the way there. We're going to get on a boat, make this thing attack us,
Then we fight it.
have water walk, fight it, kill it,
Okay.
and deal with the island.
All right. Well, I just needed someone to actually
Unless,
lay out the whole
unless
plan.
we make it to the island without the monster finding us. That could also work.
Extremely unlikely, I would
Extremely
assume.
unlikely.
This wave monster is likely protecting that island. So.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we
That's
could,
why I
we
was-
could just fly over the wave monster. And
Yeah, we could. But
But what
meantime,
about
the
when the
town
sun
is-
comes out and it starts
Oh,
to rise
right.
up into the
yeah,
clouds?
we're
and-
heroes. I remember.
It would make us look really cool if we killed that monster. It would increase our cred, our street cred.
yeah,
mean, as
the
long as
town
you
is
guys-
like starving, and there's people who like trying to
Yeah, I forgot that part.
be alive.
Oh, come on.
Are we sure stabbing is gonna work against this wave though? Like,
We got magical weapons. Who knows? We got magic stuff.
Got fireballs. We can evaporate it slowly.
well, all right. I mean, I'm ready to stab anything.
A slow
you know me.
evaporation of the ocean.
I cast climate change.
Oh, that's-
I
That's a good
cast
idea.
fossil fuels. Now let's
Put it-
wait a few years.
put it in a force, one of those force
Cage?
cages.
Oh, I don't think it's big enough. This monster sounds really big.
Put it in a force cage, and then just like cast fireballs on the bottom, and just like
Boil
boil
it.
Firewall.
boil it off. Yeah.
Let's see
Use it
what's
as
the
a power
size.
plant.
What's the size of force gauge? Oh, no,
We've
it's only
created
20 feet.
renewable energy.
Now my question is, what kind of dance does the giant wave monster do
That's a great
when I
question.
inevitably
It's got to
dance
do.
like the wave?
Do the
Yeah. Amazing.
For the inevitable dance sunlock. It does liquid. It's called liquid. To the boat factory, or wherever. Weren't they gonna charter us a ship?
I believe we did have that promised.
We need a really good name for it, though.
No, it's already got a name. It'll be bad luck to change its name.
It needs to be something stupid, like
We don't need bad luck when chasing a
Second
wave
Wind,
monster on the
or
high
hold on,
seas.
let's see if there's a good one. Aquaholic, that's a good one.
Aquaholic. Oh boy.
Serenity. Can we call it Serenity?
Serenity.
I like
2.
that one.
Oh, I think we should go
Oh.
with Unthinkable too.
How about Sea Ghost? What was our old ship? The Sea Ghost?
Sea Goat. Sea Ghost. Yeah.
Sea Ghost 2.
Sea Ghost.
Little throwback to our old ship. Rest in peace.
Yar.
Okay, so you guys are gonna head to the docks then?
Yeah, we'll head to the docks. As we're approaching the docks, are there any ships that catch our eye that are like really
Much better than
impressive,
ours.
luxury, better than our keel?
We're
what is
looking
it?
for the luxury yachts here.
Keel ship? Keel boat.
Keel boat.
Yeah, what's the most luxurious?
As you get close to the docks, you do see some larger ships through a little bit through the mist. It's hard to say which one is
I
the
see.
nicest. You guys did ask for a keel boat.
We did.
And when you get there and announce yourself to the guards, they take you to a fine-looking keelboat that is named the Brass Steed. And they remind you about how terrible bad luck it is to rename a ship.
Very well. Suppose we need all the luck we can get.
When they chartered this ship for us, is it coming like stocked with food and supplies and extra sails and oars and
Ale?
Life jackets.
ale by the barrel?
It has a ballista on it, and they say that there is sufficient cloth on this ship to make repairs to a sail if you need to. It's not stocked with food or anything specifically.
Okay. Well, we should probably bring some food with us, no?
Yeah, could we just... There must be something near the marina or the... What is it? Wharf? The docks? Where we could buy, like, supplies for, say, I don't know, a week?
Sure.
Get some, like, jerky, beef jerky.
Yeah, you can. I mean, at this point,
Ostrich
you guys have so much
jerky.
money, it doesn't really matter. Take off 5 gold for a week's worth of food.
Okay. I'll do that. And some, like, citrus so we don't get scurvy.
The rations are fairly plain, so there is some fruit in there, but
How much vitamin C is in it?
That's the real question.
Enough to sustain
My-
5 or 6 adventurers for upwards of a week?
It's a whole bunch of emergency.
I just don't want our teeth falling out.
For 1 week at sea.
Hey, we could be lost at sea. You never know.
Yeah. What if this
We
big wave
literally
picks us
have
up?
people who could teleport us out here.
And don't you never get lost?
Well,
Bryn.
when I mean lost at sea, I mean like stranded. And I guess, like, what happens if the teleporting guys are just incapacitated
Well,
or
then you
thrown
guys are
overboard? Yeah. Us pleb, like elves and humans who have to walk on our own feet here and there, need some sort of escape plan or anti-scurvy medication. As long as we've got a couple crates of oranges, we can stay at sea perpetually forever. As long as that is some sort of magical crate that keeps replenishing the oranges.
So
I
I'll
can
load
make-
up. Oh, go ahead.
You can make good berries.
Hey, there we go. Good berries. There's got to be vitamin C in those. There's got to be every good vitamin in there.
They're
They're
good
good.
berries.
So I load up the ship with enough supplies for us. So we're basically ready to go. And I say, well, who's going to captain this ship? Who's got the map?
We
I've got
pull
some
out group map.
happening experience.
Very well, Captain Eikooc.
Is there
I
a
have
small
to cover
crow's
my
nest
cover my
on this
self a
boat?
little
On
bit.
this boat?
No.
No crow's nest. What about a frontal area where I can kind of like lean off the front with my arms out? Maybe have
Yes, that
Tharhun or
that
Kelnozz
there is.
behind me. Feel
I'll
like
hold
I'm
you. I'll
flying.
hold you by like your collar so that you can like lean off the front. I'll
Seems
never let go, Bryn. I'll never let go.
unnecessarily dangerous. I'm flying. We could actually fly, but this is much better. Like flying close to the water.
Okay, so you guys have your relatively small boat here, and it's well stocked with food and such. Anything else before you guys embark? Disembark?
That's it. I think.
Do we have any other loose ends? Should we quickly look and see if we need any like potions or fancy equipment or anything that they might have?
Let me just did anybody actually try to fight the wave thus far?
Sounds like everyone just got murderized by that wave.
Yeah. That one sailor seemed to call us fools for trying to chase after and destroy a wave. We'll show him.
I mean, the more you think about it, the more it sounds really like a bad idea, but no time to stop and think. Let's head out as quickly as possible.
We've never let a bad idea stop us before.
It's true.
Bob ends the session, and the storyteller closes the book. They sailed off and were never seen again.
Well, actually, that is kind of what I'm curious about, if we should end the session there or not. I'm tempted to say yes, just because battle might
Fight will last more
push
than an
us. Well, not definitely, but you know how hard it is to think about what you want to do on your turn ahead of time. And
We've all been there.
what is this wave? Yeah. So
What are we doing again? We're in the air, right?
On a boat?
Have we left Saltmarsh yet?
I try asking and not to. So I'm kind of let's just call it a night. It won't be the end of the world if we get a little bit more sleep. And
Should we like look around and buy stuff in the last few minutes here?
Certainly you can.
So that next week we're like set sail.
Yeah, did you want like healing potions and stuff?
Let me look at. Is there like a potion merchant nearby that we could negotiate with, or an arrow merchant perhaps? One that shoots.
You're gonna find arrows a lot more easily than a potion. Of potions, you certainly will find them somewhere in Torraein. Yeah, whether you want them to find them nearby or not, might be a harder challenge. You need to roll an investigation check or another charisma check, persuasion to if you want to ask around, look for such stores or vendors.
Okay. You said a persuasion check could
Or investigation.
work.
Yeah.
Persuade. I much prefer persuading to investigating.
Okay, so you talk around. You ask multiple people. There is an alchemist in more towards the center of the town, in the bricked areas, that will sell potions and such.
Right. I go to check it out.
Okay, so what potions are you looking for in general?
So I think I'm good on healing potions. I have a few of them scattered through my thing, but is there such thing as like a potion of water walking?
Water walking or water breathing?
There's water breathing. I still have 2 of those actually.
We should
from,
load
like,
up on water.
when we
water
were after
breathing.
the Chazwazzles.
I'd like to buy water breathing faux show.
Yeah.
Eric said he has a baby situation.
Okay, so you can buy a potion of water breathing for 200 gold pieces a pop.
Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I have this cloak of the manta. Never mind.
What does that do? Water breathing?
Well,
Sounds pretty good.
wearing this cloak with its hood up, you can breathe underwater.
Well, there you go. That's a convenient find. Good thing you
Incredible.
stored that at the bottom of your bag.
Incredible.
The vendor
Okay.
says that he has another potion that he can sell you, but it's very powerful, and so you'll need to pay a premium of 500 gold pieces if you want.
Ooh.
And it's a potion that will turn you into water for a short time.
Ooh. We can be
So
one with
basically,
the weight.
what Ashbark can do?
Is it when it says turn it into water, like turn you into a water elemental, or like literally you're a puddle?
He says that it will essentially turn you into a pool or a puddle of water, and that you can move around in it as if you were still alive.
Oh.
Says he's
All right.
never drank it himself, but he understands that's what the effects are.
Okay. How long do the water breathing potions last? They like a couple hours or something like that, or an hour?
He
or
says they'll only last about an hour.
about an hour. Okay. Well, perhaps we could take 5 water breathing potions if you've got the inventory, as well as this fancy puddle potion.
Okay, so that'll be 1,500 gold pieces.
All right, and I.
As for information, I do not need a water breathing potion.
That's okay. I was just I already had 2, so 5
Oh, so
will
you're
have
stocking up
7.
with them.
Yeah, I'm
Ah.
just grabbing some so that
But you were generous.
we have some for the crowd here.
A potion of gaseous form.
You're looking for that, or are you asking if that's?
No,
what it
I was
is?
just asking if that's what it was. Like basically,
No, it's the potion of aqueous form.
Aqueous form.
going off the.
Aqueous form. And 5 water breathing, so I've got 7 water breathing potions then. Aha!
Yeah. This is a cool.
And in terms of looking for arrows, is there any like fancy arrow merchant? Maybe one that sells, I don't know, like ice arrows or something like that?
Ooh.
You'll need to make another persuasion check or investigation check.
Alright. Persuade this vendor to lead me to the next vendor.
A vendor chain.
So the vendor is able to point you in the right direction, and between that and asking around the town, the city rather, you are able to find a vendor that has some that focuses in on fletching and archery, and might have some fancy arrows for you. This does, between this and finding the alchemist, takes a significant portion of the day. So you guys are now kind of getting into the night's time where the light starts to get dim.
So all of our drinking at the bar was like 8 a.m. Guys with tankards of ale all in front of him.
We went to the CD bar.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair enough. And full of pirates, so I mean, that's what pirates do. Could you remind me, Borbs, because the item disappeared from my journal. The Mariner scale mail, that was just for swimming, right? That didn't give me water breathing.
Let's see.
I think it was just for swimming, if I remember correctly.
Swimming speed equal to your walking speed. It also helps you when you're down to 0. But yeah, no water breathing.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, and I ended up finding the arrow merchant?
Yes.
And what kind of specialty arrows does he have in his shop display?
Okay, so let's just see. He has a small number of +1 arrows. He has 10 of them.
Okay.
You can buy the bundle for 600 gold pieces. And he has, just trying to find I'm just pulling up the magic stuff so I can see the different kinds. He says he has 2 arrows that are quite special. They're 500 gold pieces each. But he says they pack an extra wallop, and if you hit some of them with it, it will hit them so hard that it is likely to knock them flat on their back.
So like an arrow that knocks them over so they're prone or something?
Yes.
That's not too bad. And there's 2 of those for 500,
Yeah.
Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. I will take both the bundle of +1 arrows and the 2 fancy schmancy arrows.
Okay, it looks like that is the majority of what he has, and the rest are just kind of finely made, mundane arrows.
Arrows of make prone?
It's walloping arrows. Okay, anything else before you guys head off?
I don't think so.
Actually, can I ask to buy diamond dust for my spell components? About 500 gold worth of diamond dust.
Yep.
Okay.
You can do that. Just subtract 500 gold.
Yes. No, yeah.
Off the top of your head, do you guys know what the conversion rate for the different denominations of currency is? Like, is it like
There's a
100
table
copper
somewhere.
is a silver and 100 silver is a...
I think platinum is 10 gold, I think. But double check that.
It sounds right. Yeah, I posted it in the chat.
Oh, nice.
So would this say then that a platinum is 1,000 copper? Or 100 gold? Or 50 electrum?
I refuse to answer your math questions.
Well, just like
Yeah, it's 10
the
silver
first
to a
column.
copper.
The first column is
Yeah, it's 1,000 copper and a platinum.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, if we look to create a structured hedge in our currency trading,
So
I was on a
Starpot,
I was on a 2-hour meeting today about structured hedges, and like within 15 minutes, I was like, I don't even understand. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, there are people with way more knowledge of these tiny little things that I just, yeah.
So anything else? Eikooc, you could look for spells if you want.
I think I'm okay.
Okay.
I think we're in good shape for the boss fight. No.
Can't really tell that it's
Where's
got
all
some
the
yellow
color?
on it.
I was
It
gonna
just
say,
looks gray.
where's all the color?
Yeah, it's just looking gray. It's actually yellow,
Looks yellow.
but it's
There's all
not.
that orange light coming off your computer.
I think it's the orange light off the computer. It's making the yellow turn gray. That's bizarre. It's not the same yellow though as the ones that you already started painting, because you did the Averland Sunset, and then I put this other yellow over it, and it worked really well. So this one, I was like, I'm just gonna put this yellow on, and it's like highlighter yellow. So I have to revisit that adventure. So, but I included a red piece too.
You guys
And did I
get-
show you this guy? All like
Yeah.
Zenithal primed and on his base.
Nice.
Oh, by the way, only Ryan has done the several seconds it's going to take for you guys to go there and check to see.
I looked at it.
Yeah, I
Is it-
spent a few minutes, and every change I made it worse than
Yeah,
what you had
that's.
done.
I did the same thing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's okay.
I-
Just tell me so I know.
Yeah, I went through and tried to tweak it, and literally every change I made, I was like, nope, no, it's worse.
Well,
So
it's not a bad idea to at least answer though.
I did just now.
Yeah. All right. So I assume you guys are going to do a long rest before you leave.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
probably do that.
Then in the morning, the heavy mist remains, and you guys push out of the dock and begin your sailing journey north to the island of Karas, and maybe you'll meet that big wave on the way.
Roll initiative.
And we will end it there for the night.
The